What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so this is a video that I meant to record the other day, but I put the wrong audio up for that particular video. So in this particular video, I want to talk about Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game. And there was a podcast that Paul George did actually a couple of months ago now. But he was talking with a couple of other dudes, and they were talking about Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game. And amongst the things they were talking about was whether or not it was real, which has become like a thing. It's become a thing, you know. You never hear people in baseball talking about, well, you know, did Babe Ruth really hit 60 home runs? I mean, did we actually see him hit the 60 home runs? Only in NBA, where you got, you know what, people look like me when you hear this stupid crap. You don't hear people say, well, I mean, are we sure? Are we really, really sure that, Bobby Jones was a really great golfer? I mean, that was the 20s. Is there any footage? I mean, how do we know? But they'll say Nat Turner didn't exist. Where's the photographs of Nat Turner, which shows their complete, total ignorance, because there was no camera photography in the 1830s, especially 1831, not in the United States. But they have a complete, see, we gotta deal with this. And this is because of a lack of education in public schools. So we gotta deal with the ignorance of this new generation. And if I call them retarded, then, or stupid, then I'm wrong. You gotta be nice to these Nimrods. Slavery didn't exist. I mean, how do I know it exists? How do I know? Harriet Tubman was a crisis actor. Sojourner Truth was a crisis actor. Because how do I know they exist? But I know George Washington chopped down that cherry tree. Abraham Lincoln he's a slave man. He's freed us because he loves us. Then another thing is, why on earth would the NBA lie? Why would everybody go to this great lengths? When any other time in history you seen everybody, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the NBA, President of the United States, when do you see all the actors, other athletes, Jerry West, when will you see this grand conspiracy to prop up this black man in 1962? Do some critical thinking. Please. But anyway, they were saying that Wilt Chamberlain played against ants, which is stupid. The regurgitation of that 6'4" white little man. I'm not going to use the M word. I don't know how many times I keep saying this, but today the average center is 6'10" and 3/4, give or take. Back then the average center was 6'10" and 1/4. So you could say the average center is maybe half an inch taller today, at best. Half an inch taller. Wilt Chamberlain was not even the tallest center in the NBA for much of his career. For most of his career, he wasn't the tallest center. The tallest center in the NBA was a guy named Swede Halbrook, who was 7'3". As a matter of fact, Swede Halbrook was the tallest player in NBA history until Mark Eaton was drafted in the early 80s, along with some other guy. They were both 7'4". So for 20 plus years, the tallest player in NBA history was a guy named Swede Halbrook, who was taller than Wilt. He was 7'3". Wilt was 7'1". People say that Bill Russell was a short guy, 6'9", 6'10", but Ben Wallace, last I checked, was 6'9", really 6'8", dominating on the boards, dominating with block shots. Lonzo Mourning was 6'10", dominating inside. Elvin Hayes was 6'9", dominating inside, blocks and shots. Wes Unseld was 6'7", 6'6", dominating inside, rebounding. post defense. Dennis Rodman, 20 rebounds, 6'6". Then they said, oh, well, why was the game in Hershey, Pennsylvania? Well, at that time, the NBA, these players were not making millions of dollars, as you've already stated time and time again. So they played in Hershey, Pennsylvania, which I believe is about a halfway point between New York and Philly. Plus, like oftentimes, the NBA was trying to promote the league, and they played in other venues. Just like you see in the NFL, don't sometimes they play over in London? There's no teams in the NBA, in the NFL in London, but they play in London, or they might play in China to promote the league. They're trying to promote the league and go to other cities, promoting the NBA. You know, and that just that particular game, Wilt Chamberlain went off. He went off. And, you know, it's so funny because everyone says that game didn't happen, but nobody says that his 78, 73, 71 point games didn't happen. I find it interesting. I think, earlier that season he had a 78 point game. Nobody talks about how that game, did that game happen? You don't know. You don't care. It's the 100 point game that you guys are so focused on. Of course it happened. He took 63 shots. He went to the line 32 times. And it wasn't by his volition. It wasn't that he went out there and was set to score 100 points. You see, unbeknownst to people who don't play the game, basketball is a team sport. It wasn't Wilt Chamberlain's prerogative to average 50. It was the coach, who I think was Frank McGuire that season, right? First 2 seasons of Wilt Chamberlain's career, he averaged 37.6 points and then 38.4 points. And they kept losing to the Boston Celtics by 8 to 10 points. So the coach at the time said, well, look, if the Philadelphia Warriors keep losing to Boston by 8 to 10 points and Wilt's getting 38, well, maybe he just go for 50. So that's what he did. He went for 50 points that year. And that game when he scored for 100 points against the New York Knicks, he didn't go out there with the intention of scoring 100 points. He had 41 at halftime. That wasn't the first time he had done something like that. He had had 36 points, 37 points at halftime before, 38 points at halftime. But this particular game, they were going up against a New York team that was pretty awful. And it was Guy Rodgers, the point guard, and the head coach, McGuire, who conspired and said, you know what? Let's just give Wilt the ball down the stretch. Let's just give him the ball. He scored 18 points in the third quarter. That gave him 69 going into the fourth quarter. Now, it would have been a tall order to score 100 points, which would have been 31 points. But he did it. And they started force-feeding him the ball, which caused him to start missing some shots. Now, he still shot 36 of 63, which is 57%. But at one point in the game, Wilt was like 28 of 30, 38 or something like that. At one point in the game, Wilt was 28 or 38. So he started missing a lot of shots because they were forcing him the ball. They were trying their best to get him 100 points. And Knicks were double teaming him, triple teaming him. He was having to take difficult shots. And that aided his field goal percentage. But he finally got it. And that's one of the few games also that didn't finish. I think there was still like 40-something seconds left in the game. But the crowd mobbed the floor back then. There was no security like it is today. The crowd mobbed the floor to the point where they just waved the game over. So in theory, if the game had continued, perhaps Wilt could have scored more points. But the game had continued. But be as it may, it's one of the great performances of all time. So tell me what you guys think.